I just don't think we should be setting any sort of precedent to be okay with incorrect submission stoppages. What up, Fightful fam? Shaquille Majuri here with your Fightful Fix UFC Vegas 9 post-fight edition. We're going to take a look at Alistair Overeem's big TKO of Augusto Sakai, Michele Pereira's incredible performance, and all of the other big moments coming out of Saturday's event. Now, before we get started, if you'd like to help us out here at Fightful MMA, the best thing you can do is hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, and a like on this video never hurts. Thank you so much. Okay, first up, the legendary, one-of-a-kind Demolition Man Alistair Overeem notches what I think is his 47th pro win. He TKOs Augusto Sakai in round 5 at UFC Vegas 9 and is now, despite being in his 40s and having a 23-year-long pro career, I think, according to him, 21 to 23 if I'm not mistaken, he's now 4 in his last 5 UFC fights. What a stud. Augusto Sakai looked really good early on. He won 2 to 3 of the first 3 rounds. I had 3-0 for him. I know a lot of people had a 2-1 for him, but he was the one engaging, putting forward pressure, landing elbows from all sorts of angles. But Overeem, to his credit, weathered the storms. He blocked very well, shelled up, absorbed a lot of the blows off his arms instead of to the head. And once Sakai started wearing himself out, Overeem really turned the pressure on in rounds 4 and 5. At the end of round 4, he had Augusto Sakai down, pounding him out with some mean elbows that cut Sakai, blood pouring into his eyes. It looked messy. It looked like it could be stopped. And to me, it definitely looked like a 10-8 round, but he made it to the horn. Round number 5 picked up exactly where round number 4 left off. Overeem used the exact same takedown he got the previous round and quickly pounded him out. It was a huge win for Overeem as he makes what he has stated will be his last run for a title. Overeem has not stated a definitive end date for his career, but it's very clear that this will be his last run as he attempts to add the UFC heavyweight title to a massive trophy case that he already possesses. So where does Overeem go for here? Well, Stipe Miocic will next fight Francis Ngannou for the heavyweight title. John Jones is currently preparing for a move to heavyweight and will likely get the winner of that fight. Looking at the rest of the division, Curtis Blaydes is fighting Derek Lewis, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik is coming off a win over Junior Dos Santos. Those are all the people I think that are currently ahead of Overeem in the heavyweight division. There are only 2 fights that really make sense. For me, the most obvious one is running things back with Jairzinho Rozenstruik. If you'll recall, Overeem was winning 24 minutes and 30 seconds of round number 5 before Rozenstruik hit him with a huge shot that floored Overeem at the very end. I'm talking like 2:49.59 broaching on 25 minutes of their heavyweight fight. The referee waved it off even though it was right at the end of the bell. Overeem had that enormous split starting at his lip, like going all the way up to his face, Robbie Lawler, Heath Ledger, Joker style. Overeem said in his post-fight interview that he'd be willing to run that back, but in his mind, he beat Rozenstruik, and it was simply a bad call by the referee. I beg to differ, but there's no doubting that Overeem was winning 99.9% of the fight. So I think running it back between those 2 guys makes a lot of sense. Rozenstruik is coming off of that win over Junior Dos Santos, and I think it's time for those guys to match up. If not, I think the only other thing Overeem can do is fight Derek Lewis, should Derek Lewis lose to Curtis Blaydes in their upcoming main event clash, set for sometime in November. Overeem and Blaydes have fought before. They are now training partners, so I don't think that is an area that Overeem would like to touch. Where does Augusto Sakai go from here? He's a top 10 heavyweight, and I think it depends on where you want to sort of position him in the heavyweight division. He could fight Alexei Oleinik, number 11, who's coming off the loss to Derek Lewis. Or if you want to be a little friendlier to Sakai, Alexander Volkov is coming off the loss to Curtis Blaydes. And there's also Junior Dos Santos, who's coming off of the loss to Rozenstruik. Okay, we're going to move past the co-main event very briefly, but quick shout out to OSP. Insane walk-off KO versus Alonzo Menfield. But first, I want to talk about Michele Pereira. Man, that dude is just insane. He beat Zelim Imadaev by a very questionable 3rd round rear naked choke, but to me, it doesn't matter. I do think that decision should be reviewed only because I don't think you can award a guy a fake submission. We'll get into it, but from beginning to end, Michele looked absolutely phenomenal. Let's first talk about what he did up to the fight. If you saw the UFC Vegas 9 weigh-ins, things got a little tense. Zelim actually kind of sort of like face washed Pereira. Dana White had to get in there and break it up, and that intensity carried right over to the fight. Pereira immediately showed a lot more composure than he has in recent fights. You know, he was still very much him. He was that flamboyant, eccentric character in the octagon, but he really picked his moments. You know, he didn't explode with energy the way he did against Tristan Connolly. He managed his gas tank, and he was very particular about when to dial up the showmanship. I think one of the biggest improvements, and to be fair, this is coming from an absolute novice. I don't know anything. I should not be analyzing fights. But what I really appreciated that Pereira did in this fight is he used his flashiness not so much for offense, although there was plenty of that, but more so for feints and for setting up counter strikes, for lulling Zelim in to a false sense of security. And if you saw a lot of the strikes that he did land with, they were more conventional combinations. There were big 1-2s that he was landing all day, every day. And that allowed for his more flashy strikes to open up. He got a flying knee in there. He got an incredible overhand slap. And from there on, he just kept slapping the ish out of Zelim, which I'm sure he did not appreciate. And then we saw him partially land with a Showtime kick. It was a phenomenal performance. Let's talk about the end, though, real quick. Pereira gets Zelim's back, lands a massive suplex, hops on the back, and hunts for a rear naked choke. It looked to me like Zelim was reaching in to fight, but the referee thought it was a quick tap. He called the fight. Zelim protested. Kind of hard to digest. On one hand, you never want to award a fighter a win when the other guy did not submit, but at the same time, there was like maybe 30 seconds left in the round. Pereira, to some, was winning 10-8 in each of those rounds. I had a 10-9, but totally get if he scored a 10-8. So I don't think anyone's really going to feel bad for Zelim, but you know, who knows? We've seen crazier things. Just last week, Zach Cummings, in a very competitive fight with very little action, landed a knockdown, near knockout head kick at 4:59 of round 3. So I don't think you want to look at Zelim's poor performance and say, oh, it doesn't matter that the referee may have messed up the call. What I would have liked to see in that case was probably them go to a decision. I don't quite know the ruling on it, but I know that, like, let's say if there's a fight-ending blow, like an eye poke or a low blow in the third round, you can kind of go to a technical decision based off the first 2 rounds if there was a clear winner. I think it's something like that. So I think you could have looked at the submission, been like, I don't think that was legit, take it to a decision, and Pereira would have won either way. I just don't think we should be setting any sort of precedent to be okay with incorrect submission stoppages. But I mean, it may have been a stoppage. I just don't think he tapped. So where do we go from here? Pereira, there's a few options. I think if you want to do the UFC matchmaker thing where they pair up people who fought mutual people against one another, Jake Matthews has an upcoming fight against Diego Sanchez. It's supposed to be Sanchez's retirement fight. If you remember, Pereira recently fought Sanchez, lost via disqualification in a fight he was handedly winning. So should Jake Matthews beat Diego Sanchez, I think you could have yourself a very intriguing matchup of up-and-comers between Pereira and Jake Matthews. 2 other ones that stand out. I don't think this is quite what I want to see, but Sean Brady versus Michele Pereira would be an absolute fight. You can't put Pereira in a non-entertaining fight, but I think him and Sean Brady would be gangbusters, and it would really, really show who's ready to make a crack at the top 25. And the final option, if you really just want to kind of throw Michele into the deep end here, Nico Price and Donald Cerrone have a fight coming up. I think it'd be super interesting, super, super fun to see Pereira fight either one of those guys, but I think it's a little soon. I think I'd rather see him fight Jake Matthews or Sean Brady before making the leap into Nico Price, Cowboy Cerrone territory. And let's very quickly run down the Performance of the Night awards. There were no Fight of the Nights handed out tonight. This is go to OSP, Michele Pereira, Brian Kelleher, and Andre Muniz. As I mentioned earlier, OSP, Alonzo Menfield. OSP, I think, was actually the underdog in this fight. Both guys were throwing heavy. Both guys cracked. It was late in the second round, however, where Alonzo Menfield approached OSP, who had his back near the cage. OSP sneaks in an incredible punch, crumples, and I truly mean crumples, folds, disintegrates, obliterates, annihilates Alonzo Menfield, and OSP walks off. Easy money, 50 grand richer. As we said already, Pereira, I don't think his submission would have typically earned him or any other fighter a Performance of the Night award. However, man, he put on such an entertaining, dominant display across 2 rounds and 4/5 of the final round. 5/6 of the final round, that he without a doubt deserved 50 grand. Brian Boom Boom Kelleher, what a weird week for this guy. He was originally supposed to fight Ricky Simone, got a replacement after that. And then literally the night before the fight, his opponent fell out and Ray Rodriguez stepped in. Ray Rodriguez, appreciate you doing it, man, but it did not go well for him. He shot for a takedown early, got caught in Brian Kelleher's patent guillotine. 39 seconds later, game over. And Andre Muniz scored a beautiful submission armbar over Bartosz Fabinski. First thing, Bartosz went for a takedown, nearly got caught in what looked to be a very tight guillotine, worked his way out of that, but nearly had his arm snapped as a coincidence. Quick first round submission for Andre, 50K richer. And that is all for today's Fightful Fix. Let us know in the comments section, who do you think Overeem should fight next, and what would you like to see Pereira do next? If you enjoyed this video, the best way you can help our channel grow is by hitting subscribe, tapping the notification bell, and a like on this video never hurts. For Fightful MMA, I'm Shaquille Madjoui. Stay safe, and we'll catch you next time. Fightful.com